job. Hi, my name is Phil Spezia. I live here in Englewood. Moved here 2 years ago from New York. Glad to be here. While I was online to get in, some of the ladies I overheard, were saying, I wonder if anybody's here that agrees with him. I voted for you. I'm one of the 20% that gave you a cushion. My question is, the people here obviously are not happy with you. Do you have the resolve to go back to Washington tomorrow, I understand, and carry through with the platform you ran on and whatever it takes to solve the problems as you see them? That's my question. Do you have resolve?
Appreciate it. You know, I think you vote, you do what you think is right, and you vote the way that you think is best for your district. All politics is local. A good Democrat said that, Tip O'Neill, a long time ago. And you try, that's what I said. and you try to best represent your district, but you do have your own predispositions. And I consider myself right of center. I thought I was a pretty conservative guy until I got elected, and then I became a rhino somehow immediately. But by the way, how many people think that I'm a conservative? How many people think that I'm a rhino? That's like a Republican in name only. Like, yeah. It is important. It is important. I think it goes to show that, you know, to answer the question, I don't like to pigeonhole myself. I try to do what's right. So, but, you know, by and large, I grew up with Ronald Reagan as my president. And my first job out of college was I worked for Senator Connie Mack from Florida. And I didn't know if I was a Republican or Democrat then, but I worked in his mailroom and had to read his letters like often you send. And we had, you know, responses that the senator would dictate to us. And I found myself agreeing with his responses to the people's problems in Florida or questions. And so I decided that if I agreed with Senator Mack and I liked Ronald Reagan, then I'm probably a Republican. And that when I first registered for to vote, it was as a Republican. Max. Hey, Ethan, can you?
My name is Karen Walters. I'm an Episcopal priest. And I must say, you've really done a nice job. And I really am pleased to see how you've worked with the community here. Thank you. And my question, are you willing to say no to the push by the Koch brothers and others to defund programs that benefit women, children, the arts, and the environment?
I like women, I like children, I like the arts, although I'm not artistically inclined. I took Sean to see the Lumineers last night, and I like the environment. So I don't know what specific programs you're talking about by the Koch brothers. Yeah, look, if you want to know how I vote, I don't look at what the Koch brothers are telling me to do when I vote. The way that I vote is that we go over to the house from our office building, and these guys that work for me give you the groups that are at home that are supporting and opposing, not the Koch brothers. It doesn't have anything to do. One thing that I hope that has come through since I've been here is that if you fall victim to the Washington, D.C. think tanks that raise a lot of money off people by basically saying, donate now, donate now. Are you sick of Obama? Donate now. Are you sick of Trump? Donate now. You guys will be donating until you turn blue. But what really matters is what you say and what you collectively say. If I have the Englewood Chamber of Commerce saying that this bill really is going to hurt us, that means a heck of a lot more to me than some Washington, D.C. think tank. If you're asking about Planned Parenthood, I'm pro-life. I always have been. And so I believe that as long as there apparently are 20 other women's clinics compared to the one that does perform abortion that don't, the federal taxpayers, look, ladies and gentlemen, I respect you if you're pro-choice. I'm not mad at you for it. It's okay. It's fine. But I'm pro-life, and I don't think it's right for federal tax dollars to go towards that participation. We're talking about the Hyde Amendment. It says no tax dollars will go to abortion. I agree. I'm happy about that. But when you have all the money going to one place, you have all the money going to one place. Ethan, next question.
Hi, my name is Sandra Glover from Port Charlotte, Florida. My question to you is, I'm almost 63 years old, and I've never seen our country in such a divide as it is right now. My question is not only to you, but all of the congressmen and the senators on both sides of the aisle. When are you all going to stand up for the people that you all are working for and help put this country back together in a united form?
Thank you, Sandra. I agree with your sentiment. I agree with your question. I'm going to tell you some truth right now that's not going to be great, but it's not going to be good for the Republicans or the Democrats. What happens in Washington, by and large, and what happens behind closed doors is exactly what you just said. We don't necessarily try all the time, and I'm not speaking for everybody, but I'm speaking for the way that it works. And Democrats are just as guilty as Republicans are guilty. A lot of times what we do isn't so much how to move the ball forward or fix the problem or govern or solve problems. It's how are we going to make the other side look bad? Because if we do that, then maybe we can pick up a few more seats in the next election. And maybe we can pick up a few more seats in the Senate. And you know what happens? It goes on and on and on, and before you know it, a decade has gone by. Yeah. And people are waiting, and they're frustrated because problems, and you might not agree with me on Social Security or abortion or whatever, but people want to see their government working. You know, you'd be surprised to know this, but I have a lot of really, really close friends on the other side of the aisle. We're with each other all day long. And we're sitting on that floor. If you ever watch C-SPAN, you'll see us sitting on that floor. And there's nobody else in the world that knows what I go through on a daily basis like another member of Congress. It doesn't matter if they're a Democrat or Republican. But when we leave each other and go our separate ways, and we go into our respective corners, the idea isn't how we're going to make Obamacare, what is our replacement going to look like? How is it going to make sure that pre-existing conditions are covered? Because, come on, it's a no-brainer. Or how are we going to make sure that our public schools, some people were screaming about that, our public schools don't suck? It's a no-brainer. But a lot of times what we do is we go back in that room and be like, you know, we're going to put this vote up today that's going to be a really tough vote for the Democrats in West Virginia or the Democrats in the Rust Belt. And when Speaker Pelosi was in charge, we would have motions to recommit or these procedural votes that would make it very difficult for us to vote against funding veterans that have children that are trying to get back to school, or, you know, and they would put that up as a way to kill what we were doing. I'm talking in circles here, but I think you get what I'm saying, is that we make it very difficult to move the ball forward we get into this rut of trying to move the ball backwards on the other team. And that is the norm in Washington. And that, getting back to your question, is one of the reasons why we're below Fidel Castro. I wish that I could fix that. All I can do is tell you, as my constituents, that that happens all the time.
That we are tired of it, and
I'm tired of it.
All to work together. If everybody don't start working together, well, we as the American people will vote everybody out and start over again because this time is nowhere.
I agree with you, Sandra, and I look. You guys don't see me on TV a lot, right? I'm not one of the talking heads that goes on Fox or MSNBC. Usually, if I do go on TV, it's something that is something that I can speak intelligently to, and I'm not just going to give you talking points that my staff gave me. It's something that I can have a conversation with the person that's asking me about it. A lot of people go up to Washington to get famous. A lot of people go up to Washington on both sides of the aisle. They want to be on every show that there is. And so I think that, you know, when it comes to the end of the day, I want to know, what did I do while I was your congressman? And I hope you know it wasn't to become famous. I bet you some of the people in here didn't even know who I was 2 weeks ago. So well, nice to meet you. But I think that at the end of the day, while we put our name on the ballot, and this is not to be hokey, but we try to make a difference. And we try to say, hey, look at this bill that I passed. Look at this thing that I was part of where we made healthcare better. Or we saved Social Security and Medicare for him. If I could do that, I would leave tomorrow knowing that I did something that was great for a generation or 2 generations. It's not to become famous. It's sure as hell not to become rich. It's to make a difference. Oh, by the way, speaking of becoming rich, for all you people that email me constantly about how I have this Cadillac healthcare plan, I'm on Obamacare. So is he. We all are, unless you're in leadership. There was no Cadillac plan for rank and file members of Congress or our staff. All the people that are working here today for me, we're all on Obamacare. So it's not like I don't have a vested interest in it being better. I'm worried about what's going to happen too. But the other thing is I also don't, I hope you believe me when I say this, I don't get paid for life for serving 1 term in Congress. I get this email all the time. It's not true. If that was the case, then I would quit and have my wife run and we get twice as much. It's not true. You're in the federal employee, if you serve 20 years, you get 3% of like your top 3 when you turn 65. That's my retirement plan. Hey, you know, I get some of these emails sometimes that I was just like, man, how is this seen as truth? I get my mother asking me all the time, too. She's like, why are you? I'm like, Mom, that is not true. Max. Max, can you come to this aisle after this woman's question, the middle aisle?
No, all right, sure.
Yes.
Congressman Rooney, I'm Julie Peck from Venice. The appointment of Stephen Bannon as a voting member of the NSC Principals Committee is unprecedented and dangerous. He is accountable to no one, unlike the other Senate-confirmed members of the Principals Committee. And I would like to know why you will not co-sponsor or at least support H.R. 804.
Well, first of all, I don't know what H.R. 804 is. So, hey, there's 435 congressmen, and they propose like 30 bills each every day. So, go ahead. Thank you.
I'll tell you. It's Stephanie Brown.
Murphy. I know what it is.
You know what it is. Okay.
Go ahead. Tell them what it is.
I'll read you the part that's important. What she wants to do is amend the National Security Act of 1947 to say the president may not designate any individual whose primary or predominant responsibility is political in nature to serve as a member of the council or otherwise to regularly attend or to participate in meetings of the council or meetings convened under the auspices of the council, including principals committee meetings.
Gotcha. Okay. I don't agree with that, Bill, and this is why. Look, I don't know anything about Steve Bannon. The first time I heard him speak, I've never in my life read Breitbart. I don't know anything about him other than the fact, literally the first time I heard words come out of this guy's mouth was last week at whatever it was. That's the first time I heard his voice. To answer your question, every president in the last however many years has had members of his staff sit on the NSC. You said voting member. I've never heard that before. So I don't know what that means. They don't actually vote in there. They advise the president. So, but I would not say at the expense of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the Office of the Director of Intelligence, or any of the people that are supposed to advise the president on the realities of the situations on the ground in which we are trying to keep our national security, the National Security Agency. James Baker was Reagan's chief political operative. He sat on the NSC. What happened? But to have staff sit on these meetings to help advise the president is nothing new. Now it's new because nobody likes this guy. So all of a sudden now we want to exclude one of the president's. If you just think of him as a staffer sitting in on that committee, it's really no different than it's ever been before. I don't really know what you mean by voting member.
All right, so back to this side of the room. If you'd like to stand up.
Hi, I'm Connie Harbison. I live in Fort Ogden, DeSoto County. And I, first of all, want to thank you for being here. And I want to thank the audience, particularly those who have maintained civility. I'm a retired teacher, and I always expected my classroom to be a rude but welcoming. I'm sorry, not a rude. Yeah, that's why I'm retired. I expected my students to practice civility and politeness, even though they disagreed. So that's the only way we can communicate well. I know we're learning that. But my topic has not been addressed today. With the exception of Native Americans, our country's entire population is literally the result of immigration. Yes. Since the legally challenged ban of anybody from certain predominantly Muslim countries, the senselessness and sheer inhumanity of even today's revised executive order has caused worldwide condemnation. Again, besmirching our American principles of protecting and securing refugees from inhumane leadership and cultures. Representative Rooney, do you support such a travel ban? And please explain why or why not.
I do support it. And I don't believe that it's a ban. I believe that it's a pause. Let me finish. We singled out these countries last Congress with President Obama as our president. And the reason we singled out countries like Yemen is because a lot of the countries that are on that list are failed states. We have no way to vet those refugees that you want to secure. My job is it's more incumbent upon me to maybe inconvenience them than to make sure that people in this room are secure. If I have to choose between the refugee security or yours, I have to err on the side of yours. Until I know that the person seeking refugee status is properly enough vetted that I think that they're coming into this country with the right intentions. Look, this it's not a matter of Muslim or not Muslim. There are people that are coming in that are truly looking for to get out of a horrible situation in Syria. I mean, whether they're Muslim or Christian there, I mean, that country has literally fallen apart in front of our eyes in the last 2 years, plus some. So I feel for those people. I understand that they're led by a deplorable man, but man, if we don't know who they are or what their intentions are, you have to understand that I would be not doing my job if I didn't support something that said, until we know, all this is a pause for for a certain finite period of time to say, can we put the personnel in place to find out? A lot of these countries don't have databases or records on the people that they supposedly govern because they don't have any money. It's actually not even really their fault either. But we can't just say, okay, well, you don't have money, there's no records on this guy, I don't have any idea, but he seems like a nice guy, and he seems like he really wants to come to America, so we're going to let him in. It is. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's what the pause is about. Until we have the ability and the resources and the capability to know that this person coming in is not going to do us harm, then we have to err on the side of making sure of that. Well, we might be giving them the money, but clearly it's not enough if we're not sure if they can come in safely.
Put them in your house. How's that? Let's put them in your house.
Right. Because it's not enough. Okay.
One more thing.
Where is... Are you guys... let's see.
Yeah.
Man in the pink hat.
I should have worn my
She's got it right here, very slow.
I'm sorry. My name is Bill Chambers. I live in unincorporated Venice, and I just wanted to follow up on the last thing about the immigration.
Yeah.
The UN already has a very comprehensive approach.
Sure they do.
Recognizing,
We have a lot of refugees that come here every year.
I understand that. So when I'm saying, if you look at the process that goes through in terms of people having to apply to the UN first, they have to be interviewed, they have to be investigated. You must know the process far more than I do.
Right.
But the process involves them being vetted by the UN only recommends that they even be considered for citizenship. Then they go through multiple investigations, and they go through Homeland Security checks. They go through every database that we have being checked. What I'm saying is there's already a process in place that often takes as much as 2 years for somebody to be vetted. My concern with me, as with health care, what is it in the next 100 days or 120 days that you think realistically could be changed, altered, improved upon, that would make up for all of this dissension and chaos that has really erupted? My concern is that so many of these little things that are really big things create an environment of a crisis mentality that doesn't exist, which forces us to kind of say, who can we trust? What can we do? Somebody fix this and help us. The folks said it better than I can. We cannot live in this continuous call to be afraid and need to be protected. And one instance is what the UN does and our own existing process.
Okay.
But thank you
A couple
for coming.
things there. Great question. A couple things there. The constant living in crisis, by the way, is a really lucrative business. So if you don't think that there's money behind why we're constantly running around with our hair on fire, that's why. You can make a lot of money by scaring the hell out of people. Sending emails, doing whatever, okay? And both sides of the aisle. I'm not picking on anybody. To answer your question with regard to, I think that look, if people are refugees, you're right. The last person was right. My family comes from Ireland a couple generations back because of the potato famine or whatever. So we were refugees. And so I get that. I understand that we are a country of immigrants and that that's what makes us great. But we also have to make sure that we have liberty. And if we're living in fear because we can't guarantee, at least try to guarantee the safety. And I get it. There's a 2-year process, but ma'am, you even said it yourself, that there's databases and stuff that they check. There aren't. And until we can verify whether or not that they're coming from certain countries, there really isn't. But they're doing everything that we can. I have no problem with people coming to live the American dream and getting in line and doing it the right way. I have no problem with that. But if we can't be sure, we can't be sure. And to answer your last question, I think with regard to what will it take, I think with healthcare, were you sort of asking that?
No, I was just saying, my only thing was to say, another 100 days with all of this disruption.
Yeah.
If we don't have databases, we have had...
Oh, you're still talking about, okay.
Well, I'm just saying that it's the notion of what all of a sudden is there going to be some magic solution.
No, there might not be. They might not just be able to come, period. Yeah, it's terrible. Last question. Max.
Hi, my name is David Matthew. I'm a recently retired colonel in the Army. I have human intelligence experience in my background, so I can talk a little bit about vetting, at least how the Army does it for our vetting that we do with people that work for us in Iraq. I will tell you the UN does a pretty good job. However, there's lots of things they don't know. For example, they take a refugee, they bring him in, and they do, over a period of time, they do multiple interviews. But they have no documentation, they have no record of his travel, they have none of his associations, because an association matrix is very important to know who that person associates with. So we know that ISIL has actually stated its intent to use the refugee programs of the UN to actually infiltrate into Western countries. So when you state correctly, we have information. It's a packet provided by the UN, and they've done their very best to try to put it together, and they've conducted multiple interviews and tried to figure it out. But it's not a 100% guarantee, and especially until recently, we weren't even doing biometric related crossovers into the intelligence community to see if these guys have bomb-making credentials, for example. So it's very important to understand that increasing, I'm adding on here, I'm very thankful that you take that stand, because the number of refugees impacted is very small right now in these 7 nations. So that's pretty much it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Guys, I have to go. Oh yeah, I work for you. You're a gem. I work in Washington, and we vote tomorrow, so I have to fly back up there to do my job. Do you want me to skip my flight and not go up to Washington to vote? That's what I was elected to do. I couldn't get out of here without my Irish coming out. Thank you. I'm going to vote tomorrow.